Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, my host companion, Sejohn Sarowick. Sejohn!
Man, Devin, that Post Malone guy is contributing to everybody's shit, huh? Like, that guy is constantly up in everybody else's business.
Post Malone is the one who did the song, the cover of Hootie and the Blowfish for the Pokemon week, right? Am I wrong on that?
I know he was involved in that. He's a big Pokemon guy, but yeah, collaborations galore. Like that seems to be his thing. I don't get me wrong. I understand he had a career that was not like him just being featured on every song or being tied to every product. But I have to say that the post Malone career where he has just been, it just seems to seemingly just somebody shows up with a bag full of money and they're just like, "Could you do a verse on this, or could you sell this product, or could you be in this thing?" And he's just like, "Sure, yeah, why not?" Right? Because like recently he was just in Dear Santa, right?
Yes,
Didn't
he
he have
was
like a
in
whole
Dear
bit in that
Santa.
movie?
He had a whole thing where, like, I don't know. Post Malone's a weird one for me because he was doing a charity event for a like LGBTQI group, and he ordered Chick-fil-A while he was doing that. And I understand that like you're young, you might not know, but that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm not gonna
I
lie.
don't I don't get the impression Post Malone is young. Post Malone's one of those people that had a career that I was not
Aware
in the
of.
right circles to be aware of for a long time. So when like Post Malone finally did enter into my line of sight, right, there was definitely a moment where I was like, "Who's this new guy?" And then I found out he had been making music for a decade, right, like that kind of thing. But the big thing today is, have you seen his Oreos? They look amazing.
They look awful. I'm sorry. It looks like he's
Are
trying to
they?
do too much with them. I haven't tried them yet. I've been
Oh,
looking
okay,
and I
okay.
haven't been able
They're
to find them.
salted caramel shortbread. They're a sort. It's a swirl. It's two different creams.
Oh,
One
I'm
is
aware.
just I'm describing this for the audience. I'm
All right,
sure
I
it
just wanted to
sounds like
make
you know
sure. Thank you.
what they
I'm
look
like,
like. But they're a salted caramel swirl, and then the other flavor is shortbread. And people cannot shut up about how good they are. So I have not gotten my hands on ones yet. But I just like the second that they were like, "Oh, those new caramel shortbread Oreos," and I was like, "That sounds amazing." Nobody explained to me that they were Post Malone
if Lady
Oreos.
Gaga can have an Oreo, I guess Post Malone can have an Oreo. You know what? I'll be honest. It's sour grapes for me because he did the thing that I've been wanting to do if I ever get the opportunity to be in the Oreo flavor lab, which is top cookie is a chocolate cookie, bottom cookie is a yellow Oreo cookie.
Nice,
And I
nice.
think they're yellow, right? They're not white technically. They're weird. Inside Out Oreos, is that what they were called, or were they Oreos? Like, they had a weird.
They've got some inside out ones. Yeah, they've got some ones now where it's chocolate on the inside and then it's supposed to be vanilla bread or something. I forget what the flavor is supposedly. But the other thing is the peanut butter ones. At least there's some peanut butter ones out here that have the white cookie on the outside as well.
It's one of the reasons why I didn't do the Sour Patch Kids flavor because
I did do that one.
but they were the not chocolate Oreo cookies, and I
They
thought
were
that
they were
was
actually
weird.
lemon.
Really? See, that makes
Yeah, they
sense,
were
I guess,
lemon
because it's
cookies.
sour. That I'm
Right. Yeah, they were lemon cookies with like a Pop Roxy sour cream in the middle. It was pretty weird.
yeah, that sounds. I don't know, but again, Post Malone, I kind of checked out after the whole. I'm here raising money for LGBT group, and I'm ordering Chick-fil-A. I don't know. Like, am I crazy for still thinking that like people who order Chick-fil-A are just like. I mean, you're ignoring some pretty gross stuff. And I say this as a person that when the initial comments were made, I like went to a Chick-fil-A and like, look, in America, one of the beauties of America is that you can say whatever you want to say and I'll defend your right to say it. But then when Chick-fil-A started actually giving money to organizations that were trying to wipe out homosexuals in this country, that's when I cut it off forever.
Well, remember, the right to say something does not mean the right to be rewarded for it. So just because, like, yes, they have the right to say whatever the hell they want, because apparently we believe corporations are people in this country, that's a whole other
Well,
kettle of
that's
fish.
actually the
But,
thing,
like, you
is
can
that it
believe
was.
that and still not support it because it's not something you agree with. That's the beauty of it. Free to speak is not free from consequences, clearly. Obviously, that should always be understood.
Right, and I agree with that. And actually, that's what I was thinking, is that this was the guy in charge of Chick-fil-A displaying some really, like, anti-gay statements. But I'm like, but that man is not his company, right? The guy at the Chick-fil-A down the street might not necessarily believe that. But then, like, that's what I was actually trying to separate the two. But then when, like, oh, profits of us go to stopping homosexuality in the United States of America, oh, well, then you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah, no, there's definitely the bigger issue in that regard, like out here at least. I don't know what it's like in New England, but in the Midwest, Chick-fil-A has a pretty strong, like hold on some shit, up to and including all sorts of things like corporate lunches and stuff. Like it's really, really popular out here to get Chick-fil-A catered in for lunches and meetings and shit. So there's a lot of times where you just kind of can't avoid it because you're not necessarily the one in the position to. But every now and then, you're finding yourself eating a hate chicken sandwich, and you're just kind of just dealing with it out here.
Yeah, and I guess I just think about it. I did not expect this, but we are here on Super Bowl Sunday, which now means that the NFL can sue us and tell us to take this down because we use their copyrighted term for the big game, which is ridiculous. They did that in the 60s when they came up with the Super Bowl, right?
Is it
Everybody,
one word? Is it copyrighted as one word or two?
two words. So
Two
as
words.
long as we write it as one word, I think we're fine. But I'm specifically saying it as two words. I don't have to admit that, but I'm telling you that that's how it's coming out of my mouth.
Come at me, Disney. Come at me.
Well, it's not Disney; it's the National Football League. But yeah, it is. It's
Oh,
just
I thought it was ABC.
no. ABC and Monday Night Football have the rights of, like, you can't tape this, but that's mostly through the NFL as well. Like, it is all their litigious nature that you're contending with on that stuff. But then, of course, Disney is in bed with Monday Night Football since it's on ABC, and now Disney owns ABC. This is fun. This is a fun way to start this episode.
Hey, man, I wanted to talk about Post Malone Oreos.
Well, I wanted to start this episode with, hi, congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles, winners of Super Bowl 59. All right, that was good. Now we'll record one. Hi, congratulations to the Cardinals. I don't know where the Cardinals play. Arizona? The Arizona Cardinals, winners of Super Bowl 59. All right, cool. So we covered our bases, right? And either way, I'll just cut it up and put in the right one, and we'll look good. All right, Siege, let's go. But we didn't start that way because you started with Post Malone. Also, for the last 7...
Oh, wait, is it not the Chiefs? Am I that far out of touch?
Oh, it is the Chiefs. I'm an idiot. Why did I think it was the Cardinals? It's the
I don't know.
City Chiefs. You know why? Because I don't give a fuck about the Super Bowl this year. I'm just going to be completely honest with the class.
No, but we're staring down the barrel of Kelsev, and what is this, ring number 4?
This will be Kelsey's third ring. It will be the fourth ring for Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, so that's that whole thing. But also, I mean, behind the curtain, I've spent this last 8 minutes and 30 seconds folding my laundry while we recorded the Say Report. Because I poorly managed time. Actually, I didn't poorly manage time. My wash was wetter than I thought it was, so it needed 30 more minutes in the dryer, which is what screwed everything up. But let's talk football, and let's continue with this Chick-fil-A conversation. Chick-fil-A, they're not open on Sundays, right? That's their big thing. So, of course, they fucking sponsor every college bowl event they can, because college football belongs to Saturday. And that's a thing that I've just, like, had sitting in my mind for most of 2025.
I do think that there might be just because we're talking college bowl. There's a whole kettle of shit that we need to wade into on that this week, because some stuff went down with the Department of Education and people are slowly starting to realize the ripple effect. But since we're talking about college bowl and Chick-fil-A, I do think that there is like these mysterious Chick-fil-A's within stadiums that people swear are open on Sundays for games and things like that. And I'm always like, how do you how do you do the justificational that, like, what rules are you bending to the point of breaking in yourself that this is what you do, right?
That's
Anyway.
insane, because one of the reasons why Mohican Sun, local casino, right? I could be there in 30 minutes, 20 if I speed. They have a Chick-fil-A inside, and it was this huge fucking deal with the fact that, like, we don't want to rent space to you in our food court because you won't be open on Sundays. And they are not open on Sundays. So if there are Chick-fil-A's that bend and break the rule to be open on Sundays, I don't know how they got away with not being one of them.
Yeah, I don't know. It had to be part of whatever contracts they probably had with whoever owns the stadiums, whether it's because it's college levels, and that could be anything, right?
But there aren't college games on Sundays. College games are always on Saturdays because you're not gonna fight. You don't want to cannibalize.
Other events.
If
there's concerts, if there's things like that, yeah, if there's any event why the food court would be open, if there's any reason why the food would be there, like there's just this mysterious, like, rumors about Chick-fil-A's that are open on Sundays in these places, and like, you know, maybe it's not true, but like I remember it was a big deal at Bowling Green when Chick-fil-A was coming into the newly renovated food court for the students because of the anti-homosexual stuff that they were up to, right? But then, like, the real reason they ended up not being able to land the spot, or they did land the spot but then ended up losing it, was because of the not being open on Sundays thing. Didn't end up fucking working when, like, you had students that needed lunch, and, like, there's a section of the student body that can't leave campus, so you can't have an entire, like, half of the food court closed for a whole day.
I don't know. I will say, and this is not in defense of anything, Bowling Green was a wonderful walking city, so I don't see that as big an issue. Like, you brought me to work with you, and then I proceeded to walk into town from
but you can't assume anything in that regard.
That's true.
Like, the school has to assume that the student, like, lowest common denominator, that we need to make sure that we are legally doing our best to take care of a student that is here 24/7, right? We can't just assume, well, sometimes they're not around, so it's okay if we break this rule, right? Like, you can't.
No, I understand that. I do want to say, I could imagine somebody making that argument. I was very impressed with we went on a literal pub crawl in Bowling Green and then walked back to your apartment.
All on one street. I know.
It was
I missed that walking.
Blew me away. Like, I was ready to move to Bowling Green just for the walking and drinking of it all. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Thank God you brought me there your last year of school and not your first, is what I'm going to say. I love you, buddy. I do. But yeah, no, it's one of those. It is weird. And actually, what you bring about that. What time do you think mess halls should be open on the weekend? Because this is a thing that I have, like, been reading. I mean, there's been a lot of changes with the Department of Ed, and I do work on a campus, so that's a thing. And my sister works on another campus, and they made a change to the dining hall schedule on the weekends that frankly blows my mind. And that is that
see it closing earlier, but I wouldn't say it should open later, because you still have people that still have to, like, go to work and things.
Yeah, like, what time? Like, it opens at 10 a.m. I think that is irresponsible, exactly for that lowest common denominator student that you just described. Like,
yeah, no, they should be opening at, like, at least 7 or 8, but I would prefer 6, because I would get up early and go and get breakfast and then go do, like, some homework before class, scramble to do whatever.
Well, I mean, that's the regular day. That Monday through Friday they're open at, I think, 7, but then on the weekends,
right,
10
and
o'clock.
Then on the weekends, but we were doing theater.
Yeah.
So we were doing stuff on the weekends. So, like, I was scrambling to get, like, reports done and shit. Like, it was no different. Just because it wasn't a class, it was still work.
Yeah, I think that it's crazy that's what I read that. I'm like, that is insane to me. How do you justify that? Yeah.
Again, like, the idea of maybe closing, like, hey, we close at 6 today instead of 8 because, you know, it's Sunday. Like, then you can plan for that. You know what I mean? Like, you can set your day up for success that way. There are a lot of people that, like, you're not thinking about tomorrow when you go to bed. So then all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, all right, I'm going to go grab breakfast. The doors are locked. That sucks.
Yeah. And so I am looking at it. Monday through Friday is 7 to 8. Saturday, Sunday, 10 to 8. Now, I'm fine with the 8 closing, but, like, to not open until 10 a.m. on the weekend, like, that is just saying, well, anyone who lives on campus and relies on this dining hall, like they don't wake up until 10 o'clock. And that's like just wrong. There's no way that everybody lives that way.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm sure that we could do the average college student sleeps until 10 on Sundays, but like, yeah, that's not the point. You're not supposed to, yeah. Anyway,
It was just
but yeah,
it was
the
just
Department
such
of
a
Education
weird
stuff
thing.
this week
Oh my
has been
gosh.
fucking wild. But specifically to relate it back to the football stuff, it was finally pointed out by some very astute fans, but no, also what's the commentators? That's the word I couldn't find. That like we need to think about the fact that this is how the NFL basically runs its training camp. Like it's like these kids go to colleges on money that they get like grants and shit for, and most of the time if they're looking to go pro, they are probably there on scholarships that are not necessarily government related, right? But the problem is that it doesn't matter if one or two kids are able to do that if the other 10 guys that need to be available can't.
Well,
Like if you can't put together solid teams, and part of that means having kids there that are on things like government money, if they can't be there to do what needs to be done to meet like requirements and shit, we're going to start losing talent at the college level, and then from there that means that there's going to be a drought of talent going into the NFL in the coming years. So it was an interesting conversation to see a couple of commentators having about this idea that like with the stuff that's going on, like just a Freakonomics style like breakdown of ways in which this could possibly ripple into your world, right? So don't ever say this doesn't affect you, because like now we're staring down the barrel of possibly having like older NFL in a few years, because guys aren't going to retire if there's not anybody to replace them, that kind of thing, or more money is going to be offered to them to stick around. We're going to see a lot more going on in terms of celebrity, like guys are going to hold their own a little bit more when they've got some bargaining power. Guys like Kels, like I'm not saying that he's the kind of person to do this, but like could very easily say I'm thinking about retiring just to get some more cash sent his way, or I'm thinking about moving teams, or I'd like to do this. And obviously there's a lot more rules and things to it, but that's exactly it, is that these guys are now going to be in a position to say, well, what are you going to do about it? There's no, you don't have any prospects to replace me, so either deal with me or don't. And like it's going to be a wild kind of ride on the NFL level, all because possible cuts, huge cuts in the Department of Education. They have been at this point, I think, put on hold, right, Dev? Like,
they are on hold. But what I wanted to ask you, I want to go back to something you said about it's not money from the government. When you say it's not money from the government, you mean specifically it's not like, because it's money from the government that also allows these colleges to offer their scholarships. It is grants from the government that then are funneled out
trusts
to offer the scholarships.
Like some of
trusts,
these schools will have, some of these schools will have positions that are funded by trusts and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Funded by alumni and things like that. But as I said, that'll be, you're lucky if that's one or two people in the room, right? Whereas that doesn't give you a fucking football team full of kids.
No, it certainly doesn't. But I just wanted to make sure that we better clarified what you meant by government money in terms of people coming in, because you're not just talking about like FAFSA students, right, who have student loans from the government, and that is how they're able to attend this school. I mean,
the Department of Education also helps fund just basic grants.
Yeah, exactly, like which then turn into scholarships. So I wanted to just make sure that we shined a bit of a light on exactly what that meant, because most of your college football players they're drafted, they're scouted, they're brought in, and their payment for a long time, right? That's the reason why there's that episode of South Park where Cartman's calling NCAA players slaves. I mean, granted, that's more related to basketball, but, still, it ties into football, is the fact that their payment is their education. Right? You're coming to this school, you're putting your body on the line for us, and in return for that, you're getting an education from us. And that is, as the cost of education has ballooned so much over the past, I'm going to even say 10 years, let alone 20 years. I mean, when you and I were in university, we were not paying what we would pay for the entire thing is now a year of college. Like, it is ridiculous.
No, as somebody that spent over a decade in college, watching that number grow was kind of mind-boggling. But I was on a lot of state-funded scholarships and grants.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Right. But that payment, that idea that they were getting paid in an education was a thing. But again, if they shut down the Department of Education and they pull that funding, I mean, there are some of those schools that do have alumni and boosters and all of these other ways to pay for the cost of not just the students, but the coaching staff, right? You don't have a collegiate championship football team and it's fucking Henry Winkler with a little green notebook, right? Not to waterboy it, but like,
but some of the shit is also assumed money too, right? Because that's how this whole fucking economy works, is off of money that we pretend we all have, but actually doesn't exist. And like that idea that bank will be emptied instantly because there's no actual money to actually move. Like, we're talking about losing rights to certain stadiums that are like shared between things, where like because they can't keep up their side of contracts. We're talking about just equipment across the board going stagnant, which is a whole other industry unto itself. Is like collegiate, like semi-professional, like equipment you would get at like Dick's Sporting Goods or something. Like there's a large portion of that depends on student athletes being the ones to get this shit, right? Like it was an eye-opening conversation for a couple of reasons, not least of which because I just never would have thought of it. But like the idea that we don't think about how much this stuff really seeps out into the economy, which was always the point. The point was always to have this kind of idea of, well, honestly, trickle down.
Yeah, it's trickle down economics, right? Thanks, Reagan.
But at the micro level, which has actually been proven to actually work, it's at the macro level that trickle down breaks down, because once you get too many people in the room, right? What's the old Tommy Lee Jones quote? People are smart, or a person is smart, people are dumb, right?
Yeah.
Once you get too many people involved in the scheme, then it fucks it up. But at the micro level, right, that idea that it would trickle out into the local economy and that would help boost things has always been part of the argument for allowing this stuff to still go on, right? And people just don't understand that because they don't see that. And this gave them something specifically to see, which I think was kind of where one of the commentators was specifically getting at. But yeah, I was just watching ESPN2 sitting at a bar the other day and eating some fucking chicken wings, and all of a sudden I'm seeing this huge like conversation that they're having about like, what does this mean for us as we watch college football, and it was really interesting.
That bar and its chicken wings will suffer if the Department of Education means that they can't have football on Saturdays. Because that Tuesday beer and wings that you had is not keeping that bar open. But a full bar on the weekend for college sports and for professional sports, that is where they're making their money. So either we see these bars open only on the weekends, like, I don't...
Yeah. It feels a little gross having to like talk about it and think about it in terms of like this, but it seems like it's the only way that it matters to some people. And in a big way, I do think it is an important thing to consider, because like we talk about the idea that they're getting paid in an education, and like for some people that's the only way they're going to get it, right? Like that's the benefit of these programs, is that there are people that would otherwise not get the chance at an education. But you can't talk about it that way because nobody seems to give a shit about that. But tell them that they won't get to watch their game and suddenly it's like, oh shit.
Yeah. You have to macro problems are easy to understand on a micro level. Like, that's how it's always going to be. And yes, that's a little bit of a modification of the Men in Black quote from Tommy Lee Jones of, the person is smart, but the people is stupid. Like, it's gross, right? But also, we are living in a time where, like, money is what talks. I don't ever talk about the show The Irrational. I have to confirm with you. I said no more Dr. Odyssey talk, or did I say no more Papa's House talk on the show?
Oh no, we can talk about Papa's House all you want, especially because didn't Tommy Davidson show up the other day or something?
I haven't watched it yet.
Okay.
I stopped watching that show because it got real bad.
That we put the kibosh on.
All right, I might have to. The fact that the one that's coming back on March 6th is a shark episode and they're using a bunch of Jaws iconography, I might have to lift it for one episode. I'm just gonna say that. But as I bring that up, there's the show The Irrational. It stars Jesse L. Martin as Alec Mercer, Professor Alec Mercer, and he's a behavioral scientist. And they did an episode where, like, the trains were hacked and it was a perfect storm of like, there's going to be a train accident today. And it was based on that whole, like, it's future prediction technology. It's kind of what happens in Paycheck, but it's human beings who do it. Like, there are whole companies.
That's Minority Report then.
Yeah. So kinda. No, Minority Report is what the hunting party is. Come to find out. First episode of that was excellent. I'm not going to weigh in until I've seen 4 episodes, though. Because that first episode was like, let's throw everything at the wall, and then we'll figure out what sticks. Nice. But one of the things is they're like, the reason that some of them are in there is we catch the serial killers before they become serial killers. And I'm like, cool, Minority Report. That's gross. That's real gross. But The Irrational, they did that episode where the trains were hacked and this like futures predictions technology. It's a real thing. Like, you just look at statistics and you figure stuff out. Or like, it's a perfect storm. There's an 83% chance that a train like collision will happen today, and like a 75% that it derailed. This whole crazy thing. So they contact the company that owns the rail lines, or it's like the cargo people, the people who are using the trains basically, to be like, you shouldn't use this. And they try to appeal to like their humanity, and I'm like, that is the wrong way to do it. Like, it bothers me. You all got doctorates and you're like, somebody could get hurt. Can you just shut down your trains for 12 hours until we figure out who hacked the system, and that
you
we
gotta
can
have
get everything?
the idealists in your TV show, though, or
right.
else it becomes really cold.
Well, I mean, like,
hard to watch.
The main character, the woman who came to them was the idealist. So, like, they had the idealist there. She existed. But the fact that they wouldn't go to this company and be like, hey, if you shut down train travel for these 12 hours, it will cost you X amount of dollars. If a head-on collision happens, it will cost you this much money, and it would be significantly higher than if, like, you shut down your job for 12 hours while we make sure everything works.
Chance of this happening, too.
Right. Like, it's like, this is the thing that happens. You 12 hours, you're safe. Yes, you'll lose $10 million. But if 2 of your trains have a head-on collision, you will lose $500 million. They would shut down the rails for those 12 hours. Like, even if it's just a potential chance of it happening. Now, yes, it's a fictitious show, so, like, they weren't going to shut those things down anyway, because then, oh, wow, we wrapped things up to, like, real quick this week, huh? We got 30 minutes to play with. No, they have to have a show, and I understand that. But the fact that nobody made the economic argument with this company, but they like presented the facts and figures that like a shutdown of 12 hours will cost this much, an actual accident will cost this much, and nobody brought that up to the corporation, which like
the message is that the corporations are bad, Devon, and that would go against any type of messaging if you showed them like.
But Sejohn, you still have them bring it up to the corporation. And then the corporation still says we can't even afford to lose the 10 mil. So, like, we'll risk the 500 mil. And then that makes the corporation even worse. Yeah. Right? Like, you have it come up. It was just so weird. But, like, yeah, like, me saying, you know, that bar is going to shut down, right? We're watching historic bars in Rhode Island shut down because they cannot afford to stay open, right? The old Cantina over on Federal Hill shut down after 80 years in business, right? And you know what's happening to the old canteen? 2 restaurants are going in its place. So it's not one of those situations where like, oh, we didn't get enough foot traffic. It's not Babu Bot in the Dream Cafe, right? Like, this is an established place on one of the most like profitable areas of Providence. Yeah, we shut it down, and now 2 restaurants are going to go there. The guy just wanted to like retire.
Do you?
What?
You don't mean Tortilla Flats, do you?
No, I don't mean Tortilla Flats. I mean the old canteen.
Good. Jeez, I got real scared. Okay. For some reason, I was like, I couldn't picture the old canteen, and then I was picturing Tortilla Flats. I fucking love that restaurant. I don't want anything to happen.
Yeah, no, I've had some great nights at Tortilla Flats. They're still open. I have just checked.
The bigger thing that's going on with restaurants right now is just food pricing, right? Which is, of course,
a whole other issue.
I can't even pretend to understand the economics of that, but I know that they're bad. So.
Well, like eggs were stolen, right? That same show that you watched that was probably talking about the economics of that. It started with that eggs were stolen. And then what do you do with the stolen eggs, right? Do you sell them? How do you sell them?
No, I mean, or it could just legitimately just be eggs being stolen to feed people because they can't pay them money. And
It was
eggs
a
is supposed to
coyote.
be
The
one of
coyote stole the eggs.
yeah.
If I can eat them when they're eggs, they never become roadrunners to go beep beep and run away from me.
But all of this is why we dive into shit to completely blind ourselves, right?
Oh, yeah.
We try and ignore the world by doing everything we can to get invested in other shit.
This was a fun 30-minute look at just some of the darkness that's going on there. And here's how we're going to transition out of it. Sejohn, I apologize in advance.
Ooh.
Oh, he said, oh. I have it here. I got to find it. In this sequel, our titular hero is single after Kate was eaten by a shark in Mexico on their honeymoon. Deuce has refocused his energies back into his first love, aquatic animals, and has spent the last 4 years developing a device to help keep whales from beaching themselves. Unfortunately, the day that is thrown into the ocean by some bullying minors on the beach is the same day that a group of visually impaired individuals are fulfilling their dreams of swimming with the dolphins, and the sonic waves from the device end up turning the friendly bottlenose mammals feral. I wasted 250 words of my Deuce Bigalow European Gigolo synopsis on that, on the opening scene of Deuce Bigalow European Gigolo.
10 minutes.
You know why? Because that's more compelling than anything else that happens in Deuce Bigalow European Gigolo. This is a nice moment to stop and remind everybody that coming this Friday is the 50th episode of the Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe podcast, in which we cover Deuce Bigalow Male Gigolo and Deuce Bigalow European Gigolo. Don't let anything that we said dissuade you from our feelings about the movies. Starring
The
Rob
penultimate
Schneider.
season, right?
It is the penultimate season. That is also correct. The Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe ends this year. And I don't know. I'm dealing with it a little bit. But yeah, I said on that I was going to read this, not completely forgetting that the episode wasn't coming out until Friday. So sorry, anybody who's here from that episode and you had to figure it out. I'm an idiot. We're recording the quiz portion, so we'll pop something in there so that people can know. But yeah, Sejohn, Deuce Bigalow, Gigolo, that's something we did this week to distract ourselves from the darkness.
Yeah, right. You know, you do anything you can. You watch movies, you make podcasts, you play video games. Yes,
you play video games.
I've done all those things this week.
Do you want to? Let's jump into the video game thing, because I really am excited about I have it written here in large numbers for us to talk about.
Nice.
Large letters. It's not alphanumeric either. It's just all letters. I'm just an idiot. I started this episode folding my laundry, man. Like, I'm so sorry, everybody. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate is a game that not only was it a game that I spent just far too much time playing on my Steam Deck, it was my most played game on my Nintendo Switch in 2024.
And I do think that at some point on this very show, we talked about how, and this is not me holding you to anything, I'm just pointing this out. You said you were pretty much done with it.
I uninstalled it from my deck, and I said I'm not going to play it anymore. However, on February 5th, November 5th, right? Yeah, I'm always remembering the 5th of November. And on February 5th, they dropped the first DLC pack. And it's Casey Jones and the Junkyard, or maybe Casey Jones and the Punk Yard. I don't know. I'm mad at the game right now, but that's not what I want to talk about. We'll end on my anger with the game after everything. We'll start with the fact.
Celebrate the joy.
Yeah, we're going to celebrate the joy, because one of the reasons I was done with the game was because I would play through as Raphael. I'd go through like every shimmering portal, and then at the end of the run, I would not get any of the rewards for having gone through the shimmering portals. And it was keeping me from being able to unlock upgrades for Raphael to make him a stronger character, upgrades for other characters to make them stronger. It was really kind of pissing me off. And
Can I get some clarification?
Yes, please do.
It was RNG on whether you would receive them, right? Like, clearly still broken, but it was actually it wasn't out of the realm of possibility to not get them, right? It was just that the RNG just never worked out for you, or were you supposed to be getting them and it was just straight broken?
So the way that it is written is that at the end of the run, you will receive a face mask for every portal you had active. So, and that, like, when I read that, I'm like, oh, okay, that's how that works. So when I only needed, like, one more face mask, I'm like, well, let's just have, like, 2 active. I don't need to kill myself just to get 1, knowing that this is the way that it goes. So I did that, and I did not get my 1 face mask, even though I had more than 1 Shimmering Portal active. And then I went through and I did one where I had, like, 7 active, and I still didn't get the face mask. So, like, based on the way that it is written, it seems like every portal that you beat it with that is active, you will receive it. And I was looking for 1 red bandana so that I could upgrade 2 things that belong to Raphael. I was trying to, like, finish his upgrade path, and I needed 4 red bandanas, and I only had 3 red bandanas. Which also doesn't make sense because I had done runs where I had, like, 6 or 7 active.
Yeah.
So that
so then it was just straight broken. So it was just straight up broken.
Right, or unless there was an RNG thing, but like the RNG is what I had in my mind when I was playing on the Nintendo Switch. Then when I unlocked the Shimmering Portal mechanic on the Steam Deck, I actually read through all of the tutorial on it, and that's where it said you'll be rewarded for every one you have active if you complete the run. And I'm like, oh, okay, well that makes sense. Let's do that then. So the DLC also came along with an update to the game to like 1.7.0. And I am happy to report that they have fixed the problem with the Shimmering Portals. Because I did a run as Michelangelo last night with all Shimmering Portals active and received, and that's 14. It's 14 Shimmering Portals that you can have active in a run. And I received 14 orange bandanas and 14 astral hearts, which are the rewards that you can receive based on how many portals you have active. So that made me feel good, right? I have confirmed that they have fixed the issue that I had with the game. And I'm happy about that, because now I can go and I can upgrade and all that. Additionally, we'll get to the but. This is we'll get there. But I did all of that as Michelangelo in service of an achievement. The achievement is called Darkest Soul. It's a Dark Souls reference, in case you're not there. There is an artifact that you unlock eventually called the War Staff, and all the War Staff does is make the game harder. You don't get any additional rewards for it. It's not like enemies are 100% stronger and you take 100% more damage, but you also get 100% more dragon coins or dreamer coins or scrap or anything like that. It is only to make the game harder. And I'm fine with that, right? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate is at its core Hades Light. It is a roguelike game so that people can learn roguelike games and then apply it to like a deeper, more robust experience, like something like Hades. That is what it feels like it's trying to fulfill. Mm-hmm. So I'm fine with this thing. The Darkest Soul achievement is to go through the game with the War Staff active from the sewer lair, never take the War Staff off, and complete the game with all Shimmering Portals active. So, 14 Shimmering Portals. I did that last night twice as Michelangelo, my initial run where I got 14 bandanas and 14 astral hearts. And then I did it again, because that first time, the Darkest Soul achievement did not pop for me. And I'm like, well, that sucks, but, maybe it's broken. So I went through again, same exact requirements. I did everything that it says to do, did not pop that second time. And now I'm frustrated. And that upsets me because currently I only have 2 achievements left, the Darkest Souls achievement and the Perfect Run achievement, which is the Darkest Souls achievement plus doing all gauntlet battles with the bosses, which is just like extremely hard mode against the bosses. Turns out that when they added a whole new section of game that comes along with new bosses and also 3 or 4 new Shimmering Portals, they broke both of those achievements. And I know this because I reached out to the company. They have not gotten back to me, but then in reaching out, I found their Discord, and they have said in the Discord, yeah, we broke these 2 achievements. And that frustrates the shit out of me, Sejohn.
man.
Because the only reason I couldn't get the achievements before the DLC update was because I could not upgrade my turtles because I was not receiving the rewards I was supposed to receive. So, like, their solution to that, once you download 1.7.0, because I have tested on my Steam Deck where I have the DLC and my Switch. Thank you to Zach from This Toy Makes Me Happy, because we did a little co-op run when we both had like 20 free minutes. And that one does not have the DLC. And how they fixed it is literally your shimmering portal progress is just reset to the fixed thing. So the first time you play around, if you've unlocked the shimmering portal mechanic, it gives you the full tutorial like you've never done it before. And they fixed it, right? It's sort of like how Sports Story, you could get stuck at the Frisbee Academy, and now they fixed it. It's actually the Tennis Academy. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said Frisbee. And they were able to fix that, but the way to fix it was once you talk to anybody in the quest chain, it resets the quest chain to the beginning. But that's better than having to start from the beginning. So I do thank people for doing that. But it is confirmed that what they did is just reset your shimmering portal progress. You'll still hold on to any victory and rewards that you have from before. It's just that, like, whatever is clicked over when you earn them, like, I think it was just staying permanently clicked over, which is why I wasn't getting any more. They've corrected that. And that's good, right?
Okay.
But now it broke those two things, and like I don't know how you fix those, and I'm upset because I did the second hardest playthrough of the game twice and did not get, and it's only that achievement award, right? You don't get anything in the game for it. It's not like you don't even get like golden weapons for the turtles for doing that.
Yeah, they've become very complacent on their community to pass that information along, it sounds like, and that sucks because like they should have made more of an effort. Maybe like a banner in game or something that says like, you know, don't kill yourself trying to get these things. Like they aren't working right now. I don't know. Do you read patch notes a lot? Do they offer them as much as some games do?
They do offer patch notes, yeah, and that's where I saw that they had repaired that. But again, they're not as like robust as I would want them to be. Like there was nothing that ever said that you're not going to receive face masks, and they did 2 updates prior to when I uninstalled the game and I'm not going to play it anymore, and neither of those patch notes addressed that problem. So I'm like, I don't know. I still don't know. What I will say, this is another happy thing. We'll get back to happy stuff now. I have officially figured out how to get the Bright Springs, which is the one that heals you every time you damage an enemy. I know exactly how to get that now. I'm happy about that. It is not because of the game. It is because I have found a community, and the community has worked out how to get all of the combo stuff. It really bothers me that there's some pretty good stat tracking, but that there's no stat tracking for unlocking the combinations really bothers me. Cause like,
like what is usually like, it's like a book or something that like tracks your combos or like
or
like
things that you've
of,
used
like, things
and
that I've learned.
So like there's nothing like that. I think in Hades, right? Like once you unlock one of the synergies between the gods, you can go look at it and see exactly how you unlocked that synergy. Like
all in the idea that you can kind of work towards it, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It's
it gives you a goal.
It's a quality of life thing.
Yeah. And in a roguelike where like eventually you get to a point where there's no new content, goals of like, oh, I want to see how if I can get Poseidon and freaking Athena to work together. And what would that be? Like, it gives you a secondary goal to work for. And they don't. Like, last night, I got one called the Tempered Shuriken, which is any of the shurikens that you throw have a chance to do a critical damage. That's awesome. And I just kind of stumbled upon it, just, like, goofing around, being like, oh, I'll get fire and shurikens this time through. And it made me, like, freaking unstoppable. It was awesome. But,
nice.
So I will say here, right, if you're going to play Turtles Splintered Fate, first of all, right now on Steam, for the price that the game used to be, you can get the game and the Casey Jones DLC. They have them bundled together, and they've lowered the price of the game and they've lowered the price of the DLC so that for the price of just the game when it originally came out, you have all of the content that's currently available. They do have a roadmap, and they're saying that there are going to be more playable characters and more new biomes. So your mileage may vary. Hopefully they do the discount on the DLC if it continues out on Steam. It was only $5 for Casey Jones and for a whole new area to play in with 2 new boss fights. And that also had a story tied to it. But before we talk about the DLC, the other thing I want to say is playing on the Switch without the DLC installed, Casey Jones's tool, because every character starts with a tool, and then there are some other tools that are out there in the world that you can collect, is called the Juice. And literally is just like the water bottle from Space Jam that Michael Jordan lies to the tunes about. Mm-hmm. And what it does is it makes your special go up insanely fast, your special refills, because Casey Jones is the first one to have a ranged special attack. People are being real dicks about that online, where they're like, Casey Jones is the first character to have a dedicated projectile, and they're like, oh, Raphael and Leo have ranged tools from the beginning. I'm like, yeah, but that's not dedicated. His special is a range attack. That is different. You've never had a character who can literally hit from a distance right out the gate. Right? And if you upgrade him or choose a different tool, he doesn't lose that ability. So the Juice is this thing. It makes it so that goes up, and you get a boost to your power. But it's short. It's for 5 seconds you'll do increased damage at 30, 40, or 50%. And your special will fill up in either 6 seconds, 8 seconds, or 10 seconds, which is fine.
He just gloves down Michael's secret stuff and goes to town.
And he goes to friggin' town. And I like that.
What is the lore supposed to be on that exactly?
It's probably in the IDW books. I mean, this game is set pretty squarely in the IDW, continuity, except for the fact that if the punk frogs are there, Jenica has been a turtle for 25 issues, and the 5th turtle, the yellow female turtle, is not even thought of in this game. So it is an offshoot of the IDW continuity where Jenica never existed. Honestly, I don't know if the mutant bomb went off. I don't know if there's a mutant town in it, but also Baxter Stockman is somehow the mayor, which was really tied to I'm going to lead us through what happened when the mutant bomb landed. But
I have to imagine that if they are that dedicated to the IDW stuff and Jenica is not anywhere to be seen, that you may be looking at potential add-on character then, right? It seems like from a marketing perspective, seems like an easy thing to point to say, hold off on that to release when,
later on, right? I don't know. I don't think it'll ever happen. There was a nice update by Kevin Eastman of the original comic that added Jenica, and it's clearly set in the IDW continuity, which is banana pants anyway, right? I know I talked about quantum nucleoic acid and how Venus de Milo, who was a punk frog punk frog named Bonnie, who was Frankenstein to look like a turtle so that she could infiltrate the Ninja Turtles. This is all real stuff that happened in the IDW. Her and Donatello eventually become endgame lovers and go on a thing through time, and what she does is collect the Q&A from the killed Hamato clan and brings it forward and places it in the 4 turtles and Splinter so that when they are mutated, they are them resurrected. Real. I did not need that. I can just believe in the magic of it. I don't need this to be a self-fulfilling prophecy that Donatello and Venus did in the last issue of the book.
Nice.
Sorry.
Wild.
It's buck wild. It's crazy. But they just did a thing where Jenica was drawn into that initial of the 4 turtles. She's on a different rooftop, and there was huge backlash to that. There was just an image talking about the Turtleverse, where the main turtles of the IDW, it might not have been IDW, but it was one of those, met a Rise Raphael, 2023 Donatello, and Jenica was there, so it couldn't have been the IDW. It was the 1987 Turtles meeting Turtleverse characters. And Jenica was there, and people were like, this was great until I saw the fucking imposter was there. And it's just wow. I love the Ninja Turtles. I'm so happy that I've actually gotten to like have real conversations with the people who are responsible for bringing this into it. The fans of this property are some of the most toxic fans I have ever interacted with.
I mean, this is being superbly hyperbolic at this point, but like fans in general just suck. Like it just really, I don't know if I can point to a time in my life where being in a room full of fans of the thing that we were like attending made it a better event. And I mean that in the digital space and in the meat space. Like I just cannot think of a time where I have been in a room full of people that were excited to be there for a thing that didn't then just turn into a fucking bummer at some point because of people becoming exactly what you're describing. Just I don't know. Like I don't want to stop enjoying things, and I don't want to stop enjoying those things with the people that love them. But I am finding more and more that I really need to limit that as much as possible. And I don't necessarily mean like I can only do it so often. I could do it every day if it's only with one or two people. But the second that there seems to be like more than a dozen people with an opinion on a thing, it just goes sour for me so quick nowadays. It sucks.
I mean, I will, in our own life, right? Again, microcosm, navel gazing, whatever. The only time that I can truly point to a thing like that where it worked out, it still went negative, right? It still went, I'm going to say blue, but that's not necessarily what I mean. It still went bad, right? It still broke bad, was when we met Kevin Smith at the Secret Stash, right? Yep. Even people exactly that we were thinking. With that day, like, ended up breaking bad as far as I'm concerned. I have no problem saying that about the other two people who were there on that journey with us, right? I think about in the line where Michael Bowen was there and he had, like, came over. We had a nice conversation with Michael Bowen because we called him Michael Bowen and not Donkey Lips, right? And then that
we mentioned we liked what was the weird Sean William Scott, David Duchovny, Orlando Jones?
Evolution.
We mentioned Evolution, I think.
Yeah, it was like we had this really nice interaction that went bad when other people were like, "Oh, hey, and he's like, I'm just gonna," and I'm like, "No, we get it, we understand." And then going into the store. And everybody being hustled out of there, but Jen Schwalbach being like, "Hey, you guys want to hang out?" Like, and you and I hung back and got to talk to Jen Schwalbach, and that was cool. But it was because we weren't acting the way that literally everybody around us was acting, which was, the person who drove us, one of the people who came up with us, trying to foist upon Kevin Smith his college-made movie.
It happens to that dude a lot, by the way. I've seen Kevin Smith live and seen the exact same thing happen to him there.
Oh, I don't doubt that for a second, but it was just like one of those things where I'm like, man, I thought this was going to be a fun trip. I didn't realize that one of us was going to cross that veil. And it happened, and exactly what you're talking about the meat space not being any better than the digital space. I mean, I've seen that Ninja Turtle events where like this guy was with his kid and he's like, "Oh yeah, I got all the figures and like if you could sign them, that'd be great." And then pictures that were taken inside the shop where those things were signed were up on eBay within half an hour. Like, you want to talk about something that just ruins the fun of an event. Yeah. Is like them finding them on eBay like, "Oh, that guy lied to us," right? Like, about what this was going to be for. And that was gross. It was just one of the grossest things. And again, like, I mean, I know that I have some thoughts, but they're related to thoughts that like one of the creators said. And it's Peter Laird. I'll say which one of them was like, I like the idea of the Ninja Turtles being this one and done. They only have their lifetimes to make an effect on this world, right? Sons of a Lost Age is the 27th issue, and it's still in the guest era, but it is really about that idea that like the Turtles are the last of their kind. So then when you introduce something like a Venus de Milo, who is a female who like biologically is similar to them, there's a really good chance that means that they could have a child, right? One of them could procreate with her. So that kind of destroys this whole idea that like Peter Laird was playing with as like what these characters mean to me as their creator. And it was Kevin Eastman who okayed Venus de Milo, right? So like it all works out and it all comes out in the wash, and that's fine. But it's one of those things where like that's where the creators are, but people didn't hate Venus de Milo in the next mutation because, Peter Laird never wanted there to be a female turtle. People hated it because, like turtle boobs, right? Like why she have mammalian features and things like that. And also the fact that she was a woman who was there. Had they introduced a 5th male turtle, which I say that like they've never fucking done that, Slash, Toka, freaking Kermit, not Kermit, Kermel, I don't know his name. The turtle from space in the 1987 series, right? Of the Turtleoid things. Like, they've introduced a bunch of male turtles. But when you introduce female turtle, like, that's when things start to get real toxic in the room with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fans. Like, even down to the fact that I'm like, it's real weird that, like, Jennika should be there. And the fact that they don't even, like, talk about her is strange to me. And I'm like, but they've done the DLC with Casey now. There's a chance. And Dale, no, there's shit. Jennika's never going to show up. Venus is never going to show up. The little albino turtle, I can't think her name. She ends up becoming a timestress. Like, she's never going to show up. And they're not going to show up because that is not what the fan base wants. And they're not going to jeopardize their property with that, which is gross, right? Like,
yeah.
Anywho, back to it. Casey Jones's tool is in the game, even if you don't have Casey Jones or access to the junkyard. It is a tool that you can get through playing the game. I don't know if that is intentional. That seems like kind of a weird oversight that like, you get the tool of the DLC character, but you don't get the DLC character. Like, it doesn't seem like that. You know how sometimes when they introduce a DLC character and they'll like give you a little taste? That doesn't really synergize with any of the turtles super well.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but it's there. So, like, there is still that little taste of the juice to be like, Casey Jones has this as his tool.
First taste is always free, man.
Yeah, first taste is always free. But also, let's say, well, I don't have the DLC yet, but I'm probably going to end up getting the DLC on Switch because all of my friends have it for Nintendo Switch. If I were player 1, then you would not be able to use Casey, but we could play through the junkyard area together as long as I was the host of the game. Which is
that's
cool.
Like that.
Right? So then
that makes it so that you're not breaking the multiplayer experience, which is nice.
Yeah.
I have to wonder with the juice being available as a tool, with everything else that seems so delicately breaking in the codes for this game, it seems to me like maybe they ran into something where like they tried to make like to cordon it off, but then fucked something up, and the easier answer was to just make it available to just everybody, because the tools are the things that everybody can kind of like pick up and like synergize and like remake their like builds with, right?
Yeah, like that is the biggest difference between the turtles outside of their weapons and thus the speed, right? Because like a bow staff is going to be slower than nunchucks, is that tool that you start with. And the fact that like if Michelangelo ends up getting Donatello's hardened shell tool, Michelangelo becomes unstoppable. Because in the time it takes for Michelangelo to do enough damage to recharge the shield, like you can just always have the shield active as Michelangelo. That's like the big secret of how to beat the harder things of the game. I mean, that's how you cheese it. But also at the same time, it's like, is it cheese or is that just the viable strategy? So, yeah. But then you can play as Casey Jones, and I'll say this. Casey Jones is wonderful. He's got the range of Donatello with the speed of like a Raphael. I wouldn't say he's as fast as like a Michelangelo, but his special being him shooting a hockey puck, and that hockey puck, anybody that it hits gets guard broken, which means that you can do like 25% extra damage if you hit them while their guard is broken. Like, he is just a damage machine. And also, anytime you do his special, like, the next attack from him is a final strike. So you're also doing your strongest hit. I've been getting, like, 500 damage per strike as Casey Jones. If I build the character correctly.
What's the catch then? What's the hook? Is he, like, weaker? Like, is his health lower or something? Or, like, why wouldn't I play it?
His health is a little bit lower, but, like, not significantly. Like, it's actually kind of weird. Like, what you bring up is a good point, because the turtles are strong because they are mutants, right? Like, I never really consider that with like Bebop and Rocksteady, like, because they're idiots and the turtles can beat them, but like the Turtles could beat a human much easier than Bebop or Rocksteady, because they do have like superhuman strength because they are a humanoid rhinoceros and a humanoid warthog. Right? Like, you never really think about that superhuman strength that comes to the party with them.
Oh, I do all the time. It's part of the reason I love Casey Jones so much, is that he is one of the few humans in the world that has proven himself capable of standing up with these. And we've talked about this.
Well, we've talked about that a bunch. He's the Commissioner Gordon. Yeah, that's your grab.
Yeah, exactly.
So the fact
so I'm curious to know like how they balance that concept, or if they do,
they
don't bother.
Right now, they don't bother with it. And actually, going back to the juice of it all, right, if it is the IDW continuity, his father, Casey Jones's father, Arnold Jones, which is interesting because Casey was Arnold Jones Jr. nickname in the original stuff. So they actually introduced his father as a character in the IDW stuff. He ends up becoming Han. Do you know Han from the 2003 series? The like huge muscle guy who's Shredder's like right hand in that one.
Yeah.
Casey Jones's father ends up becoming Han, and the way that he does is that he takes like a steroid mixture that increases his strength but does not mutate him. So like he's given a mutation like cocktail to make him super strong. But he doesn't become an animal, right? Like
the juice is basically.
So my guess is the juice is something like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's
interesting. It's a little bit of a bummer, but also like at some point you need to give him something in order to make sure that he's not going to just get his head chopped off when he's going up against, like you said, like Bebop and Rocksteady.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, yeah. So it's one of the things that I really like about the Michael Bay Out of the Shadows. Like, right, I have said many times that as much as I don't love that first one that he did, that second one is actually a blast for me. And one of the things I really like about it is in the introduction, in introducing Casey Jones, one of the big things that they show is that he's just so fast that he can't get hit. He's on blades almost the entire time, and it's not so much that he's as strong as them, but he's able to basically use speed as kind of like a balancing in it. And I thought that was really cool that they gave him something that he could do better than any of the people they were up against. Whereas like Elias Coates, he's just a badass.
He's just a badass, and that's what he was in the comics. Like he is. What if he is one of these people that like just watched a bunch of action movies and decided that's what I want to be? Like he just consumed nothing but Charlie Bronson movies and then decided I have a death wish. Like those are things that they have been said by the creators of Casey Jones, is that we have all these like vigilantes who are like tragic characters. Like Batman has such a tragic storyline, but like that Casey Jones doesn't have that tragedy. He's just like, it'd be fucking cool to beat up the bad guys.
Yeah.
And he's a cool character because of that. Like, and especially in the comics, right? And then we'll move on to other stuff, right? Because we're in Comic Zone now. It's his farmhouse that they retreat to after the defeat at the hand of the Shredder and the burning down of the second time around antique shop. It is not April's. So they go back to Northampton, where Casey Jones grew up, and you learn a lot about him as just like what his life was like before coming to New York. And that's really cool because it takes that away in the movie that it's like April's home. So like Casey Jones kind of just looks like this homeless guy who had prospects of going professional in the NHL and then like hurt his knee.
What they do is they make him New York the character.
Yeah.
That's what they do with Casey Jones in the movies.
Right. Which totally works, especially in the third one, because he is introducing these guys from feudal Japan to New York. And what better person to introduce a samurai from feudal times to New York than the embodiment of New York, Casey Jones, as portrayed by Elias Koteas.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the TLDR on Splintered Fate is that if you liked the game, you're going to like it more if you download Casey Jones, because he fixes up a lot of the problems of the other turtles. He has no weaknesses. I literally cannot think of a weakness that he has. I have beaten both paths as him. I have beaten the junkyard as all four turtles. And I said I was done with it before. People, tell me to uninstall Splintered Fate, right? Like I asked you before, I'm asking you again. When you hear this, go on the Discord if you're a member of the Discord, contact me via text message, All of that tell me to uninstall Splintered Fate, because it should not have any more of my time until it is fixed, because it will just continue to frustrate me, and I have other games to play. Which, Sejohn, formerly, I'm sorry I never claimed Pizza Tower. I didn't realize that you only have a month to do that.
Oh, did I get my money back?
You should have gotten your money back. Well, this can be an off-mic conversation, but was my plan after I finished, because I'm at the new desk, right? This is the first Say Report being recorded at my new desk. Love it. I love the setup. It is so much cleaner, neater. It's easier to move around. I would have never been able to fold laundry during an episode before I had the new desk. So, like, catch 22 there, I guess, right? Or one step forward, 3 steps back. But yes, so my plan was to install the new desk. Was that?
Sorry, what?
Opposites attract. Or I'm dressed like a cat. Ooh, wahoo. My plan was to finish the desk and then play Pizza Tower, and the desk install took longer than I had expected. So I just never did it. And
we're redoing an office over here, and we had some cabinetry and stuff that we were putting together this past weekend. That I get it.
There's just like DIY. Like, you think it's going to take a certain amount of time, it's going to take much more than that. So I do apologize for that. But I have, like, my plan during the superb owl or the big game is to finally, like, just play a shit ton of Dragon's Quest 3. Because I don't need the PSN network to play Dragon's Quest 3, though it is back up. But our plan to do like a bunch of Marvel Rivals and Suicide Squad yesterday, that got kiboshed real fast. All right. So, Sejohn, the floor is yours. Tell the people what you've been wanting to talk about for 3 episodes now.
3? Are we talking about Creature Commandos?
We're talking about Creature Commandos.
Oh, excellent. Yes. No. So we have both now watched all 7 episodes, right? 7?
7 episodes. That's correct.
Yeah. I honestly don't know what to expect about the future of it, or like whether or not it's ever going to be something that is fully tied in and addressed to anything else. I don't know, but as far as what that series was, that was a hell of a story. I really enjoy the fact that it is just one arc for the whole thing. I very much felt like it was in the world of Harley Quinn up until it was clearly not. So like there was some stuff going on there that was kind of interesting that I was kind of waiting to see would pan out, and not disappointed that it's not connected to Harley, but like there was such potential in connecting it to Harley, but it's clearly not the universe that
Birds of Prey took
that
place
Gunn
in.
wants to play in. Well, yeah, no, that Gunn wants to play in, right? Like
right.
He's
well,
not.
When you say Harley Quinn, I was, because it clearly exists in the same universe. I mean, John Economos is there, and Amanda Waller is still Viola Davis. Like, but he has said that the only thing, like Peacemaker, everything in Peacemaker is canon to his universe, right? With the DCU is what it's called, right?
Yeah, but I mean the Harley Quinn TV show.
Oh, okay, the Harley Quinn TV. I'm sorry. I was thinking stuff that I know is tied into it. Apologies,
no, because it could have very easily been in that world, right? The way that this story is told, kind of in this third world country that is, well, not really a third world country, but a foreign country that is cut off from the rest of the world in a lot of ways. Like it'd be very easy to say, like whatever
that was Wakanda
is just not affecting this world, and vice versa. But the biggest thing that makes it definitively not is Clayface, the use of Clayface in Creature Commandos, which is where I had to have that moment of, oh, it's not in that world, that's disappointing, but also this version of Clayface and what they're doing with him in this story is fucking bad. Like, holy shit, like turned him back into one of the scariest villains in the Batman Rogues.
He was excellent.
Fucking wild.
I mean, the other thing that I think would connect that is King Shark at the end. Spoilers for Creature Commandos. I haven't said it, but the fact that King Shark is on Task Force M at the very end of it, and it is very clearly not the Ron Funches King Shark, but the Sly Stallone King Shark from the Suicide Squad, I think says a lot. It speaks volumes. Yeah. So
I'm excited to see what they do with Creature Commandos going forward. Interested to see what else they choose to kind of connect it to. Like, are they going to do a second season? Because it
has been confirmed for a second season. I was just looking at that. Yeah, so there is going to be a season 2 of Creature
Choices.
Commandos. I don't know when, but yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
but
think it's
I
one of
think
those
that's the other thing.
situations of like Velma where they greenlit one season and then cut it into 2 seasons. I
Mhm.
think that this was you have 1 season to do with this, and we'll go with how the reaction to it was. And yeah, I mean, I loved it. I think Creature Commandos was so good. I'm really sad about the Commandos that we lost.
Yeah.
um, yeah,
I like the choices though. That's what yeah, like this it made some big, important, impactful choices and actually stuck with them in really impressive ways and things like that. I am did we, have we lost Rick?
I believe Rick is going to be in Superman. Rick Flag Sr., played by Frank Grillo, is going to be, and that's not who's doing the voice, right? It is him, right? It's
Yeah,
Frank
it is.
Grillo who does the voice and the character.
Yeah.
That's who's
Yeah.
playing him in Superman, the Superman film that's coming out this July, as part of Juristastic, which people are stupid. You know what? I'm pausing the Creature Commandos thing. The fact that like a new Jurassic Park movie, a new Superman movie, and then the Fantastic Four First Steps all come out in July, and people are like, it's like Barbenheimer. No, it's not. No, it's fucking not. Barbie and Oppenheimer opened on the same day. A movie opening the first weekend, a movie opening the second weekend, and a movie opening the last weekend of July does not a Barbenheimer make.
Also, the juxtaposition of the two films and their possible expected audiences was also a
Was a
huge part of
huge
it.
part about it, right? Because the only
Right.
reason,
Whereas these three movies are all going to be are pitching themselves to the exact same 40-year-old white dudes.
right? It would mean more to me if on July 2nd the hubris was we're going to release a Jurassic Park movie, we're going to release a Superman DC movie, and we're going to release a Fantastic Four Marvel movie all on the same day. And we're going to put them up against each other for the same audience and see which one comes out on top. The fact that it is still adhering to this fucking one movie release per week, one big ticket fucking release each week, right? And then some dregs that come out alongside it, like that doesn't impress me. I'm not impressed by that. And I don't know why people are like, this is our Barbenheimer summer for 2025, because it's not. The fact of the matter was, market research said, while the boys are going to see Oppenheimer, the ladies will go see Barbie. And we can afford to release these both on the same day because they won't cannibalize each other's audience. But then movie
and then
fans...
the magic was that but then the magic was that the artists behind both films were the kind of artists to say like, no, you can actually be a fan of both of these, and like that coming together only strengthened that whole like Barbenheimer vibe.
Yeah.
And like I just don't see that being any part of the story here with these movies. Not that anybody on these movies is like openly being hostile towards each other either. They are very clearly being made for the same audiences. They're very clearly being planned to release it in a way that all of those audiences can see these movies and not have to make tough decisions. Although I argue that, you know, the decision to go to 3 movies in a month is a hard one nowadays. But you could do it if you wanted to. Whereas if they were all releasing on the same day, limits yourself much more, right? So like there's definitely not the vibe of the Barbenheimer. I did not realize people were kind of getting onto that.
Yeah, there's already a term for it, and I don't know exactly what it is. I'm gonna call it Park Manisphant. Like, there we go, because that's definitely not what you would do. You wouldn't use the last parts to portmanteau them together, and then the first part of Fantastic Four being at the end.
I'm excited to hear that he's going to be in Superman because
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And, you know, I really liked him as a character, but they make this huge choice with him getting injured. And after what happened to Junior in the Suicide Squad movie, and fuck, I loved that depiction of him in that movie. And then to lose him in that, I was just like, you're doing this to me again, right? Like, what are you doing? But then towards the end of this series, they show that Rick is still recovering, but he is definitely damaged. So I'll be curious to see what else we see from him because I really liked him. But I do love making the bride the head of the team. I think that's awesome. I had some weird feelings about the portrayal of Frank by David Harbour. And not because I think David Harbour did a bad job or anything like that. In fact, I don't think it was a bad portrayal at all. They just
They made him a
his
villain.
over
They made him the biggest villain ever, and I hated
They
it.
didn't make him a villain. They made him a foil. Like
Yeah,
he was not, he never in any way got in their way. He did help. He helped
he
Rick
did
at
help.
one
Yeah,
point.
that's true.
So like he never
He
really
killed
hurt. So I wouldn't
Clayface,
call him even
spoils.
an antagonist. But they made him a foil to the bride in a way that he should be, but never gave him the opportunity to show why he is a hero in this world, because he is like it's an interesting move, because I mean Agents of Shade, like he ends up like carrying Excalibur, like he is a big time hero in the DC verse, and I get wanting to like point out like his whole White Knight like flaw. That is a big flaw of
Yeah,
his, and it is very heavily shown in the comics being in his relationship with the bride and about how she does not want to be treated in the ways in which he keeps trying to treat her. So like they didn't make up anything for this character. I don't think they got anything wrong with him. It's just that like they at no point ever really made him extremely redeemable, like, right, even in the moments when he's helping Rick, he's the fucking worst with his lines. I get entirely why you were like he's the biggest villain of this thing. Like he kind of is in like the meta story of what's going on
yeah.
in this. You were 100% correct. He is definitely one of the biggest villains in this season. But in the actual like physical space of what he does within the story, he ends up actually not doing that much harm because the bride takes him out too fast, right?
Right. Well, I mean, I guess where I say that is that, like, he does have these nice... I love him as a character in the comics, right? There's a reason why I have the McFarlane representation of DC's Frankenstein, because I think that there's some really interesting stuff about that character. But then when you don't show any of those, as you mentioned, redeemable moments of the character, and you only focus on the incel stuff, like, it gets really gross. And they don't fridge, but they kind of do. They fridge Victor Frankenstein so quickly in this story that you really don't get to explore how both of their actions, both the Frankenstein and the bride, are sins of the father, right? Like it is.
Yeah, I mean the big thing is that like, and he depicts this, and we're always big fans of show don't tell, but I don't know if this is something that maybe needs to be explored more for people to really kind of understand. But the big thing about Victor Frankenstein to remember is that like he does take sexual advantage of essentially a child.
A child.
Right? Literally, there were the Oscar movie Poor Things last year, right? But like this idea that this woman that has the like no ability to really understand what she's doing with her body, he takes advantage of that. And so like when Frank does end up murdering him, it is not entirely unjustifiable, right? It's just that from what they depicted in the ways in which he talks to her and says things to her, he seems very sweet. But it's important to remember that those memories are from the bride's perspective, as we just said, was not capable of truly comprehending what was going on to herself at that time. So there's an unreliable narrator aspect to all of that like I think is important to remember, that can help in understanding Frank's actions later. But again, big choices, right? And I think that that's one of the things that I'm finding about Gunn as a filmmaker that I think really makes me like him as a filmmaker, and why I think people are really kind of attracted to some stuff that he does, is that the guy will make a choice and then he will just stick with it. He will stick with it to the point where sometimes it's not even funny anymore, or sometimes it's not as emotionally impactful as it once was when it first hit. But like he makes some choices, and this is true in the Guardians movies. This is true in all of his indie films that he's done. Like I'm really getting more and more and more on board with the idea that that Gunn is going to be making some big swing choices with some of these other characters like Superman and stuff. The more and more that I look at what he's done, and I guess like in that regard, I owe a little bit of an apology to everybody who was like, Creature Commandos is going to show us what Gunn can do, because like it kind of did.
I mean, I will say this: that second episode is wonderful. The fact that Creature Commandos is essentially 7 episodes, and each episode is a flashback to how each member of the Commandos became a member of the Commandos was, I mean, that's James Gunn storytelling to a T for something like that. I mean, because that's basically what the Guardians of the Galaxy, that first movie, you see so much of that for so many members of the team. And then the second movie fills in even further. And then the third movie, it's finally Rocket Raccoon's time to have that, right? Like, it's a big thing that James Gunn does, is focus on how the past influences your present, right? And in ways that Lost never fucking could dream of. Right, like because I'm ready for someone to say that, and it did, and that Bride episode was enjoyable for me up until the fact that this guy essentially took advantage of his daughter, who like had been alive for at the most a year, and like just recently got the idea of like what a present was into her mind, right? Like, and I was so upset by that episode that I'm just like, I want to watch more of this, but like, this was hard, and I don't know if they did enough to like make sure that the audience will understand how much of a fuck Victor Frankenstein was in this story. Like, it was,
and I'm also bringing a lot of knowledge to it that it should and shouldn't be from the original story, right? Because the other big thing is that like, we know that Victor is as big of a monster as the creature is, because
if not more,
because that's the whole point of the original concept, right? And so there's some of that, right? Like, that's ghosting into this like reading of this, but also just this understanding of what we were shown. Like, I do think that there was supposed to be some implications of this, but it didn't get deep enough for me yet.
Yeah,
but
nor for me. And I was so nervous to come back to that. Like, I was so nervous to come back to the third episode of the show, but then that ended up being, I think I can safely say this, my favorite episode of the show.
Is that one a GI
robot? GI robots. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why I have one Funko Pop figure from Creature Commandos, and it is GI Robot. And that is because I fucking loved GI Robot. And the reveal at the end, like years later, when he was bought from like the Army Navy surplus store, and then he had this found sort of family with this like older man who had like cats and all of that, and then he took him to a Nazi rally, and GI Robot's like sole programming is to kill Nazis. And I'm just like,
oh, it was intense.
I was awesome. They revealed the net, and like even having like GI Robot not immediately jump into killing them, but like that like sigh of like, like it gave him so much humanity. And that episode touched on the Metal Men, like with the fact that the creator, the inventor creator of the Metal Men is the person who purchased him from the US government when he was decommissioned. So like there's a chance that they're going to show up in the DCU. Like, we already know that Metamorpho is going to be in freaking the Superman movie. Like, so they're already going way deeper into the like crazy DC stuff for this Superman movie, right? So I'm here for it. But yeah, that GI Robot episode was so good, and like coin operated fucking boy, and it was so good. And I'm just like, all right, so maybe he didn't do as much as I would have wanted there, but like there's still gonna be more show, right? Like, that can't be it for GI Robot. We only got a taste of what we got for GI Robot, and then we only got a taste for Weasel, because there has to have been something in Weasel's life before he found that elementary school, right?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, like, because in addition, like that Bride episode, they have that moment where Victor takes advantage of her, and then they have a montage that catches us up from the 1600s to modern time. And I'm like, man, but then again, it's a montage. We could dip in at any time and see how the Bride lived her life. But also, we have amazing moments with the Bride, like when they're in the brothel and she just fucking kills that guy.
Like, oh my god, those two dudes. Yeah, when she takes those two dudes out. Oh my god. Well, I mean, she ends up having my favorite moment of the whole show, which is like played perfectly at the very end when she gives her little monologue and then takes the gun out. Like, it is just, I don't even want to spoil it for people.
It's that final moment.
It is such a that moment is just so good.
Yeah.
But she gives that speech and she talks about the best of us, and it got me. That was the moment that really got me. But the GI Robot stuff, I think that one of my favorite things about all of that is that in true Gunn fashion, this isn't this sad story that talks about how GI Robot then becomes a monster. He still very much believes in the power of friendship and family, and it is why he does what he does in the other half of that moment with of Coin Operated Boy, where he is doing everything he can to protect his new family to the point where he sacrifices himself. And it's this beautiful kind of like moment of realization that like even after this first family kind of boned him because let's not.
Well, his second family, his first family, I would say, is the brigade he was with in World War II.
No, you're right. Yeah. No, the boys in
Sergeant Rock. I mean, Sergeant Rock was in this fucking show.
I know.
It blew me away. I'm like, fuck.
No, I think that it was. I think that the GI Robot stuff was phenomenal. But my favorite bit definitely had to be in the last 10 minutes of the show.
Well, that Nina Mazursky episode. That last episode, the beginning. Like, I hated her mother so much for like, and he's like, her name is Nina. Like that, her whole story, like that was the one I was looking forward to the most. Because Nina Mazursky, like, she is such an interesting character. And it's like, and from the beginning where the bride's like, you're the most human out of all of us, right? Like, you don't get to talk about what we're doing here. Right? Like, you're a monster in name only. Like, and then the way that their relationship built, and then to go back and see how Nina became the fish woman that she is, and then like, it was hard. I was tears that whole episode, both times that I watched it, and I'm just like, I loved it. I loved that episode. I loved the music. I mean, like, first of all, the soundtrack for Creature Commandos, very much like Peacemaker Season 1, is up on Spotify. It's all there. Listen to it. Because James Gunn, he's a pretty good filmmaker, but he's a fantastic sound designer. Right? As somebody who's got a piece of paper that says, I know how to sound design, I wish I could sound design half as good as James Gunn. And it's just a fact. And, like, all of the music in Creature Commandos is amazing, but the stuff that was used in the 7th episode was like next level. It was freaking Guardians of the Galaxy 1 to Guardians of the Galaxy 2 in terms of just how much the quality improved with the music. That weird scene with Brandy and Kurt Russell aside. No, I laugh at that scene every time because I understand. But yeah, like Creature, I mean, I will say though, my favorite interaction on Twitter recently was somebody putting up a couple of pictures of Weasel and being like, how the fuck does this guy keep surviving? And just one word response, nepotism, because this is his brother who's playing him. That's it. But yeah, no, Creature Commandos, really good. Even the Frank episode, like, I really enjoyed it. And you're right, they did a good job trying to do it. But, like, I think of the reasons why I like him as a character in the comics, none of that got to happen in the first season. Yeah. And that was, like, I mean, yeah, and that kind of stunk. That stunk as somebody who likes this character, knows about the Excalibur stuff and all the other things that he does. But then I think about also like when he's just drinking tea at Rick Flag Sr.'s house and he's like, When Harry Met Sally, have you seen that movie? She was so overcome at the look of Harry that she had an orgasm in the middle of the deli. And he's like, yeah, I don't think that's what that scene's about, big guy. Like, they were good. That was the best stuff. Rick Flag and Frank being with each other was like some of the strongest moments for him in the series.
Yes.
And
well, yeah, because we slowly start to see him become a better person, right? Like, and I think that's, right. If he continues with Frank, my biggest fear is that James Gunn actually just hates the character and isn't going to do much with him. But my hope is that as he continues in the series, it's going to be about him becoming better.
Yeah. And I hope that, but I don't want him to ever wind up with the bride. Like, I want that to be said as well. Like,
can't possibly, yeah. No. But if in his journey of realization that that's never going to happen makes him a better hero, then I'm
all here for that. I think that would be very good. I was surprised that we saw him alive in the post-credits scene. Like, I was fine with, she shot him in the head and now he's gone. And I'm fine with it. He has done what he was needed in that first week. I know that he is, but like, it would have been just, maybe they're magic guns, Sejohn. They're magic guns that could
No, I
kill
mean
Frankenstein.
he's the DC equivalent of
He's
like
the
a
Hulk.
Hellboy figure
Oh,
and or the Hulk,
yeah.
yeah. But so like in that regard, I always think Hellboy because of the mysticism of it all. But you're right, you're not wrong. He is very much a Hulk figure.
Well, like
It's like the
I've
more you
always
hit
could
him,
like,
the stronger he gets.
and that's one of the reasons why I dig it. And like also Hulk because of the whole bride aspect of there being a She-Hulk, but it not being his cousin. Or maybe it is, right? Maybe their right arms are cousins, twice removed.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, I love myself. But also, while we're just saying that last thing, turtle wise, like fuck them for having the female turtle Jenica become a turtle from a blood transfusion, and her name is Jen. Right? We all know what happened with She-Hulk, you sons of bitches. Something to think of anytime I talk about Jenica. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to make sure we talk about? This feels like we finally got to the meat and potatoes of some stuff here, Siege.
I did Sundance last week. That was
Yeah,
pretty
you had
fun.
Sundance. Anything to report from that? Sorry.
No, biggest thing. So I saw three great movies, and then I saw two movies that I can't decide whether or not I loved them or hated them. One of them, I don't think, I don't know. It's hard for me to talk about these films too much because they're just not accessible to people, and like, and I know that, and I don't want to like misinterpret something or misrepresent something because you can't go out and see for yourself. But I will say this: I saw a Colombian movie that was called Reigns Over Babel. That was fucking phenomenal. It was a like kind of urban fantasy world in which there's a bar where the devil plays cards every night and you can play betting years of your life. But it's a big ensemble piece, one of those kind of Big Trouble style, Richard Linklater style, like there's a whole bunch of people like, and these stories all intersect with one another type stuff. And one of the characters is straight up just Dante, who is trying to pay his penance for the years he's lost to the devil. One character is Calliope. One character is like there's a Cerebus moment. It was fantastic. So if you ever get the chance to see that one, totally. I just don't know. That is, I will say, the only one that has a preview available anywhere, and I'll post that in the supplemental materials after this because it is only 80 seconds long, but it gives you a really good idea of the visual aspect of it, which is where a lot of the really cool shit came from. But I was describing it to somebody the other night, and then Tessa, who saw it with me, said, "Well, death was very like sexy but scary." And that was when I turned around and was like, I think every character in the movie was sexy but scary. I think that was actually like the vibe of the movie. Is this entire movie is sexy but scary.
I mean,
Also
it
extremely
is the
funny.
devil,
Also
so like,
extremely funny. Yeah, no. And it was really fun because it has a very happy, positive ending for someone that is practicing cross-dressing for the first time, which is not the way that it normally goes in Sundance movies. Usually when somebody tries cross-dressing for the first time, things go horribly wrong. So there was some stuff with that I think was really fun as well. So yeah, Reigns Over Babel, definitely the favorite one that I saw. Also saw a really, really good zombie one that was like a straight up just like love story to Night of the Living Dead specifically, called Didn't Die, all about a young woman who was a podcaster before the end of the world happens, and then so what she decides to do is travel around and do her podcast with survivors. But like straight up, the opening scene is like a man and a woman walking through a black and white. It's all in black and white, and walking through a cemetery, and a zombie attacks. Right? They go at some point. They walk by a pit of burning bodies, which is like straight out of Dawn of the Dead. Like there was just so many moments like that. But then the whole thing comes down to they end up in a small group of survivors in a house that is being surrounded by zombies every night, and they're trying to survive. They have found a baby, and like things get really intense with that sort of stuff and things like that. It was just really well done. It was like the effects were really good. The story was actually extremely cool, for like being a stock standard zombie movie and just being kind of about a family trying to survive. They actually had some really interesting 2025 style moments in it. A lot of COVID coding, right? Talking a lot of things
yeah.
about like quarantine and social distancing and stuff like that. Like there was some stuff going on in it, but it was clearly just a love story to just Romero, and I appreciated that. That was really cool. And then the last one that I saw that was fantastic was just this like grade A gold standard documentary. It is just like when you think of like the documentary style of film, it is like the apex example of that. So it's not doing anything really interesting or different in terms of like form, but the story was just so fucking good. So back in the 90s, and Dev, you might have some recollection of this a little bit better than me because you were a little bit older than me, are a little bit older than me.
I still am,
um,
yeah.
but in New York, in Middletown, New York, in the '90s, early '90s, some kids at a high school started just kind of investigating for their high school news thing a local landfill that was getting people sick. You know, it was just a story for them to kind of look into, that their teacher had kind of brought to them because he had noticed some more serious stuff going on. But he was like, and he didn't even make it a class assignment. It was more of an extra project for them. He was like, if you're interested, I would like to start looking into this, and I think we could use the news as a just a tool to do that. And they suddenly, like 7 years later, like generations of kids at this high school, they uncovered like this huge conspiracy that went all the way to all of these people that own the town, and on top of that, the fucking mafia. Like they got in with the mob at some point. It was really bad. Like, and these kids just fucking keep pushing. It was wild. So this movie was about them making those newsreels documentaries at the time, because they did end up putting together a full documentary of their own in the 90s called Garbage and Gangsters, by the way, if you can find it anywhere. Like, but this movie was an exploration of those kids 30 years later, and the teacher that had led them, and like talked to a bunch of them now. A couple of them have gone on to work in television and film and win like awards and stuff, and things like that. It was just fucking badass. But again, also the most standard ass documentary beginning, middle to end. So like, don't expect anything like artsy. The biggest thing about it is just that it was watching these kids just fucking kick ass this entire time, and then getting to see them 30 years later, like really like gushing over the time that they had to do that, because you know, you don't always get to be that big of a badass when you're 30 years old and suddenly you're scared about the world, you know.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. What are the names of these? So I know the first one
So
is Reigns Over Babel.
Middletown is the documentary. It's
Okay.
just called Middletown. The second one that I talked about, the zombie movie, was called Didn't Die, and the third one is called the big one that I loved was called Reigns Over Babel. It is a Spanish film, so I don't know if its name is. You should be able to find its name either way. I'm not sure what its Spanish name is. Sorry.
Didn't Die was the zombie one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Didn't Die.
So I have the other one. And Babel, like the Tower of Babel, I imagine, right? B-A-B-E-L.
Exactly.
All right,
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
Like Baby
yeah.
Bell cheese,
Way
but
later.
without the Y.
There's this moment where they're going through a BDSM style sex hotel that is clearly supposed to be the like layers of hell, and they're just going deeper and deeper and deeper, because one of the many storylines is that they're trying to find this musician who is immortal because he won a game against death. And so
Is his name
because he's
Johnny
immortal,
and he's from Georgia?
because he's immortal, he basically like he just overindulges in just fucking everything and gets lost and shows up late to gigs, and like that's like part of his whole character. But they need him to play at the bar. They need him to play at Babel that night. So it's all about these two characters going in search of him, and they do this like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern journey, like through hell, basically looking for this musician. It's such a good bit. It was so much fun. Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, jealous as always of your Sundance thing, but we're gonna talk about that off mic. But I guess last thing that I want to say, it's related to movies, and it also relates to my little detour in the middle there of Superman and everything. The fact that there are three movies coming out in July this year, and they're all marketed to the same group, and they're all very desirable to see. Remember AMC A-List, the way that I used to see movies in the early days of this podcast?
And how it kind of has slowly been creeping back to life.
Yeah. So it's creeped to the point where I think it was like only $20 for the month, and we could see 3 movies a week. And Dale and I would try to figure out a way to get to the Dartmouth Cinema, because that's where we were like to go, and see 3 movies on a Thursday, right? To get our full money's worth out of our Stubs membership, or AMC A-List membership. So they've announced that they're raising the price of A-List to $26 a month, which honestly, that's not that bad if it was $20 before. Like a $6 cost bump is not as crazy as some of the other ones that we've seen in the same amount of time, right? What's that?
It's not even 50%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid raise. But in addition to the fact that they are raising the cost, you could see 4 movies a week now, not 3. And people, their response to that has been a bit tongue-in-cheek, but also not wrong. when are there 4 movies in the cinema at this time that a person would want to see to take advantage of the fact that you could see 4 movies a week? They're not wrong about that. But then the response from people was, what about this July when Jurassic Park, Superman, and friggin' Fantastic Four come out? And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say it right now. That is not an argument for 4 movies a week. That is an argument for 1 movie each week that I will want to see. What will dare go up against those?
Yeah.
Like if they were all coming out on the same day. It's
almost like they're offering nothing at that point, right?
Yeah, like it's just like that being the argument. I'm like, yeah, I guess I could wait and then go see all of them that week that Fantastic Four comes out and I'd be fine. But if I'm paying for this thing that gives me essentially 28 movies a month, right? 16 movies a month that I can go see, potentially 20 if it's a 5-week month. Like, there being one big release each Friday, that doesn't help me, right? I don't know if you can see movies you've already seen. I know, like, that was the big issue with Movie Pass. Oh my God, I said Movie Pass in 2025. Where once you saw a movie, you could not see it again, which is one of the reasons I had 2 Movie Pass memberships, so I could re-see movies. And I'm also the reason why Movie Pass failed. Let's remember. Like,
if you can't, then they're offering something they can't fulfill on. Like, that contract is unfulfillable. If they're not letting you see movies more than once, because I mean, this point is this just went from being a snarky comment on Twitter to being a valid legal point.
Yeah.
Is that, like, you're offering me a product that doesn't exist, essentially. You're asking me to pay for a thing that I will never get to actually use. That is a big old fucking no-no, right?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. See up to 3 movies every... Current plans, so it will begin... This also doesn't go into effect until the 7th of May, 2025. See up to 4 movies every week in all states. It is $27.99. All AMC theaters nationwide. 4 movies every week in 48 states, excluding California and New York. That is a fucking crazy deal. That is only $2 additional, because it's $25.99. But $2 additional, you can see them in New York and California. I thought it was going to be much more in big cities where you're going to probably have more movies to see, right? Like, 4 movies.
Well, yeah, for sure. More movies that this would apply to, right? Yeah.
Like, all right, so there are no AMC theaters in Rhode Island, but for $23.99. Okay, so yeah. So Massachusetts is $25.99. And Connecticut. But, like, also 36 days, $23.99, and then there's exceptions. See 1 movie every week only at AMC Classic Theaters, $14.99. Join the wait list now. So I don't know if you can see movies that you've ever already seen. Like, that is the thing that it does not seem to show.
It doesn't seem to specify.
Terms and conditions. You can book 1 current week reservation and 1 future week reservation. That doesn't make sense, right? Because it's per week or month. Well, up to 4 movies per week. And take advantage of up to 4 out-of-state visits per year.
But you can only plan to see 1 movie, and then once you've spent that ticket, you can buy another? Like, what does it mean you can't book an event?
Yeah, like, that's like,
weird.
Members can book 1 event. I don't know. Can you see movies more than once is what I am not. I will look into it and I will have this information next episode because I don't want to keep this going where it is. But that is the question that I need to know. Because if you can't see movies more than once, then there's no reason to do it. Like, it's not that there's no reason to do it. It's a really good deal. Like, it really worked out. Because, like, right now, a movie ticket from me is $16, and I tend to buy at least 1 or 2 other seats. So I'm paying like $45 to go to a movie in the laser projection theater. Because with COVID and everything like that, I want that little bit of buffer confirmed, right? I'm not Riley in the premiere episode of the 2nd season of the Boondocks, but it is really nice that if it's a packed theater, I own these other 2 seats and nobody can sit there. It's actually what we ended up doing when we were AMC A-list, when we saw Star Wars, not The Last Jedi, the final one, Rise of Skywalker. Like, we ended up paying out of pocket to buy 2-seat buffer so that we knew nobody would sit next to us. And AMC is not mad. They still sold the ticket, right? So, I don't know. Like, I don't want someone on top of me in the theater, right? I know that for these big premieres, it's not fathomable to have no one else there, but anything I can do to, like, kind of give myself, like, a comfortable viewing experience, I'm going to do it, right? I got 5 tickets for Captain America, and that's because I know of at least 2 people who are coming with me. Which, next episode, I don't know if we're going to be talking about Captain America Brave New World, but I will definitely have seen it. But that's it.
Yeah,
so I will
I'm
look in this AMC thing. All right, cool. That'd be excellent. But yeah, I do want to look into, I think you could see as many as you want. But I don't. You can see each movie as many times as you want. It's non-transferable, so you can't, like, get 2 tickets to the same movie and then, like, have someone go with you. I mean, there's always going to be terms and conditions related to this stuff. But it is as nice as it is that they're raising the price and they're giving you more, right? Because Netflix just raises the price and, like, you'll take it and you'll be happy. Disney Plus, as they are bleeding subscribers, is raising the price and not really giving you anything more. So, like, the fact that, we're raising the price, but you know what? We'll give you 1 extra movie. But come to find out, are you even able to give me that 1 extra movie?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so,
I mean, that is like a serious question because that I now have about this, because I mean, the math on that does not work. Like, if you can't utilize the 4 movies a week thing because there's not 4 new movies or at least 4 movies available that you have not seen yet, that feels like they can't do that, right? They shouldn't be able to say that.
I don't know. I mean, like, I remember, like, that's how we saw the Playmobil movie. We didn't see it the week it came out, but we got there early for a 4:00 screening of the Playmobil movie, and it's like, oh, that worked out because it's a movie we hadn't seen yet. So I feel like I've gotten some movie pass in my A-list, and I just want to make sure I can, you know, kind of, what's that machine that spins really fast and separates things?
A centrifuge?
Yeah, I need to centrifuge out so that I understand. Because MoviePass, they were very much, once you've seen one movie, you could never see another movie. You could never see that movie again. Which is
stupid.
Why I got 2 memberships and bankrupted the company. You know what? I think I'm going to start putting that on my resume, that I'm the reason MoviePass shut down.
There you go.
I have enough receipts to prove it. All right. So this has been the Say Report. Thank you so much for joining us as we return from our 420th episode hiatus. I hope you all enjoyed that one. It was a lot of fun to record. If you want to keep the conversation going, then you can join our Discord. Invitations are available wherever we are on social media, which as of this recording is currently Facebook and X, formerly Twitter, though things always change, and we'll let you know when things do. But if you just go to the About section, there's an invitation to join the Discord. Come talk. We have a good time. I push you on swing. I spray you with hose. It's a good time. If you are not interested in the Discord part of it, you can communicate with us on those social media sites, or you can just send an email to thesayreport@gmail.com, and we will correspond with you like it's 2001. And as always, if it's just for my eyes or Sejohn's eyes, just put our name in the subject line, and we will make sure that it is distributed properly. Without any further ado, William, please bring us home. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.